Baka. Verin. Buraya. O Rafi, Nuna, verin.
Well, protests are continuing inside Iran, now almost 3 weeks worth, but they are waning, and the people in Iran are begging President Trump for help. I'm going to show you some more of that in just a minute. Thank you very much for joining us, folks. I'm Chuck Holton, coming to you from Panama, and we're going to be talking about the ongoing unrest in Iran. Is the regime about to fall, and will we see an attack tonight from the United States and Israel? There's some real indicators that are lining up right now that make it look like we're going to be doing another live here very shortly. If you recall, it's currently about 8 p.m. in Iran. Typically, if the United States were going to attack, it's going to be more about 2 a.m. or to 4 a.m. At night. So that we have a few hours probably to wait. But like I say, there are a lot of things that are lining up right now that make it look like things are about to start popping off. So we're going to be talking about all of that today. Folks, thank you very much for watching. Do me a favor and put where you're watching from in the chat. I see Sacramento and Ontario and Florida, New Zealand, people from all over the globe. It's really amazing. Seattle. Is it illegal to watch my podcast in Seattle? I don't know. That's Scotland, Oregon, Maine, Scotland again, Fresno, California, Tulsa, Oklahoma. Hello, everybody. Central New York, Maryland, Newburgh, New York, Wisconsin, people from all over the place. So thank you for watching the podcast. Please make sure you're subscribed to the channel. That also helps the algorithm and tells YouTube more people need to be shown this live content. I am getting ready to leave tomorrow on a trip to Copenhagen, Iceland, and Greenland. And I'm going to be bringing you on the ground information about the ongoing threats that President Trump is making to take Greenland by force. And that's going to be interesting. I'm also going to be reporting on the shadow fleet, or the ghost fleet of the Russians that is causing havoc and creating shenanigans all throughout the North Sea. And I'm going to be talking about NATO. And is NATO obsolete? Do we need NATO in today's day and age? So you're going to want to stick around for that. If you don't know me, I'm a former Army Ranger who has been reporting on wars and disasters since about 2003, so more than 20 years. I typically go to a couple dozen countries every year, try to bring you the truth from on the ground in the places that I go. And so if you want to follow up to the minute information about all this, make sure that you are subscribed, and you can go over to chuckholton.com and get a lot of extra content over there. I'll be talking more about that a little later. So I want to start by showing you it's a little bit of a long clip, but I think it's worth watching, and it just got subtitles, so you're going to have to actually read it. Didn't have a chance to translate it for you. Many times I try to translate it into English, and I have some more that I was able to do that with later today. But if you look at the information that's coming out of Iran right now and the scale of the protests, what we're hearing from reputable sources like the Institute for the Study of War is that the number of protesters has gone down markedly over the last couple of days. And that's due directly to the fact that the regime is absolutely massacring its own people. There are some estimates that there have been between 10 and 20,000 people killed already. President Trump gave him a red line, said, if they start killing protesters, we're coming in. Well, maybe he should have come in already, because there are already thousands of protesters that have been killed. And I just want to, here's some. Obviously, this is in Tehran. obviously lots of young people, and they are not being deterred by the gunfire. That's incredible to see, just the bravery of those young people. But take a listen to this guy and what he said after he escaped from Iran into Turkey, where he could actually get information and get information out and say what he thinks without being killed. Take a look.
بازار بدبختی اصلا حال رویم خوب نیست. همه رو دارن میکشن، همه رو دارن میکشن، بچه‌ها رو همه رو دارن میکشن.
Killing everyone's kids in the street.
فقط کمک خارجی احتیاج داره. همه شاهزاده رو صدا میزنن، خارشون رو بگوید هر کی غیر از این صدا میزنه. شاهزاده نیستش که، شاهزاده سمبل آزادیه. اصلا کاری به اسم شاهزاده نداره. مردم دوگانه ناجیه، مردم رو میکشن. بیرحمانه دارن چراغا رو خاموش کردن، هر کاری دلشون میخواد دارن میکنن. من پروازم کنسل شده بود از پروازهای خارجی تهران به خارج از ایران، خارجی همه کنسل شده. و بدبختی یه پرواز ایرانی پیدا کردم. حالا روی مثلا خوب نیست. فقط کمک خارجی. من تا الان تا ایران نباشید نمیفهمید وضعیت چطوری. ترامپه مرامپه هر کی هست، فقط کمک خارجی. چشم امید بچه ها همه به شما هست. بخیلی خارج از ایرانه. من یه قطرم توی اقیانوس فقط میتونم قصه آنامو بهتون بگم. جهنم رو دیدم تو ایران. این چند روز جهنم رو دیدم. گناه داریم، خیلی گناه داریم، خیلی گناه داریم. حقمون نیست. فقط کمک خارجی. چجوری میشه ما کمک بگیریم نمیدونم.
So he's saying, his message there is we have to get help from outside Iran if we're going to survive and succeed, because the Iranian regime will kill all of us. They will kill everyone. And they are using military tactics against their people. They're using military weaponry against their people. There are videos coming out from Iran right now that are showing, or you can hear the gunfire. Play that for you. Now, I want you to keep in mind that the people don't have weapons. Only the military has weapons. So all of this gunfire is coming from the regime toward the civilian populace. Pretty disturbing footage coming out of there. And so, Meathead says, where's the UN? Yeah, that's a real good question. Also, where are all the protesters that came out against Israel in Gaza and said there was a genocide taking place? Where is Greta Thunberg? How come she's not committing some kind of shenanigan or taking a boat to Iran right now to protest this movement? Why? Because they really don't care. They don't actually care about any of those people. Everything they do is just a political calculation to try to attack President Trump and Israel. So it's absolutely mind-boggling what's going on there. So let's talk about some of the things that are lining up that make it look like the United States might actually be doing something in the very near term, in the next 24 to 48 hours. The United States has begun clearing out its bases in the region, because the Iranians have said, if there's an attack against us, we will attack U.S. bases across the region. We've got more than 40,000 troops in the area at bases from Kuwait to Qatar, to the UAE, to Bahrain, to, North Africa, to Israel. We've got a couple thousand troops in Israel. Iraq, Jordan, Syria. So a lot of targets for the Iranians if they want to attack us. And so the United States is clearing out. For example, I've heard from, I've got some friends in Erbil. Looks like they're clearing out non-essential personnel from the base there. I may be there in the next couple of weeks as well. So you want to stay tuned for that. They're also clearing out the Al Udeid air base in Qatar, the one that was struck back in June. As a matter of fact, I've got a video that talks about that was put out by the Space Force, explaining how they put together a satellite communication system that helped them track the missiles much better in real time to keep their people safe. Take a listen to that.
2024, we saw a significant increase in missile activity to the tune of about 300 missiles in one day. And that was unheard of at the time.
That's a high volume. Typically, you might see anywhere between 6 and 20 missiles within a whole shift.
Since then, there's been about 2 or 3 major conflicts in the Middle East, and we are seeing loads and loads of missiles being shot at one time, or volleys.
Our adversary simply isn't slowing down, and we have to keep up. We have to maintain pace. And part of that is integrating a faster way to onboard new systems.
Systems Delta 84 is the missile warning, and we are closely aligned and essentially in step with Mission Delta 4, which is the missile warning from the operational side.
Previously, there was a divide, a gap in coverage between handoff of systems. The Mission Delta and System Delta constructs allows us to have continuous operator feedback, continuous interactions with our operator brothers and sisters.
We stood up Mission Delta 4 in the fall of 2024, but we truly became an integrated Mission Delta when we brought on the deputy commander of Mission Delta 4, who is also a system program director.
We could iterate quickly and bring tech insertions and capabilities on in a matter of days and weeks versus months and years, which has been typical of systems in the past.
When Iran launched multiple salvos into Al Udeid Air Base, we had new capability, new technology that was in place.
In both U.S. allied partners, there are so many people at risk.
We're sitting there on the operations floor, and we can detect certain things, but we're waiting for the actual call to evacuate. We left the building to the closest hardened shelter, which happened to be the security forces dorms. We'd been planning everything down to the minute of the detail of who's going to drive, who's going to grab this bag, who's going to secure this door. You don't know how much time you're going to have, right, when that type of alarm goes off.
We really wanted to make sure that we got the wording out as soon as possible.
There's a lot of things that I have trained on my entire career that I was happy to finally be able to execute. During the 12-day war, we actually did have some complications that were able to be solved pretty quickly due to, in my opinion, that integration of that acquisitions piece.
Closer integration between acquisitions and operations makes us all better.
Missile warning is all about saving lives, right? It's all about people.
It's incredibly rewarding to know that the work that we do directly contributed to saving lives on the ground.
All right, so that's from the Space Force at Al Udeid Air Base, and it looks like most of those people are being evacuated right now. That's a real tell. Also, we're seeing a lot of aerial refueling tankers, KC-135s, that have, yesterday they flew to Honolulu, and today they took off and headed to the west, which is exactly what they did right before the United States struck Iran the last time. They've also seen some of the B-2 bombers that were at Diego Garcia that have disappeared. They are not squawking, so we don't know where they're going, but that's exactly what they did before the attacks in back in June of last year as well. So those kinds of tells are very well, allow you to read between the lines. Okay. Also in Israel, they are the mayors of the towns around the Nevatim Air Base, like Dimona. Dimona is where the nuclear reactor is, and the Nevatim Air Base is nearby. Also the U.S. Air Base, or the U.S., not Air Base, but the U.S. base, where they have a big radar installation and some of the THAAD missile batteries that are interceptors, is right near Dimona as well. I've been to those places. And the mayor of Dimona just ordered the opening of all the city bomb shelters. So that is, again, another tell. And the United States is evacuating non-essential staff from other bases in the region in Iraq and elsewhere. They are also, the Israelis moved their presidential aircraft, which is known as the Wings of Zion, or the Wing of Zion, and they sent it to the Greek island of Crete. It didn't have Prime Minister Netanyahu on board. It was empty, but they're just repositioning that aircraft because normally it's at the Nevatim Air Base. The Nevatim Air Base is typically one of the air bases that gets targeted by the Iranians when they attack Israel. And so they don't want to take a chance of having their Air Force One get blown up. So they move it somewhere else. All of these things are very clear signs that we are about to see an attack on Iran. So let's see what else we've got. Other intelligence agencies like the Institute for the Study of War assess that attacks on Iran are imminent, and they put CENTCOM forces all across the region on high alert. And they are expecting sustained exchanges of fire between Iran and Israel and American air bases. So we may see missiles flying here very soon. Now, the assessment is that Iran has been able, even despite American and Israeli efforts, to rebuild their missile stockpile since in the last 6 months, since the war in June. And they have focused, obviously, on missiles that will reach Israel. So they're medium to long range missiles, right? So they are, I mean, of course, the Iranians are saying we will fire 2,000 missiles at a time at Israel and completely overwhelm the, Iron Dome system. But I have ascertained that Iran doesn't have that many launchers. So it's more likely that it'll be 500 or less at a time. And the Israelis and the Americans have significantly bolstered their ability to shoot down those missiles since the war in June. So it looks like it might be a more intense exchange of fire. The Israelis also put out instructions to people in Israel: do not film or post missile strikes or interceptions, because that gives the Iranians the ability to adjust fire and see how they're doing. So if you are reporting on what's going on as a local or foreign journalist, you're not allowed to video the strikes. Now, they say that, but those videos always get out because they're spectacular videos. And what the Israeli government is saying is that, you can say there was a strike in Dimona or there was a strike in Tel Aviv, but not say exactly what was struck or anything like that, just so that you don't give the Iranians any targeting information that they could use. That's extremely important. When you're a journalist in a war zone like that, you have to be very careful about what they call operational security. If I'm in Ukraine or if I'm in Israel and things are happening, it's just common courtesy on the part of the journalist to not report things that are going to get people killed. And unfortunately, there are a lot of journalists that will put their career ahead of people's lives and do go ahead and report those things. I got after Trey Yingst for doing that in the last war in June. He was literally going to the site of the missile strikes right after they happened and reporting with the missile strike right behind him exactly where it was and that sort of thing. And, hey, it gets you a lot of clicks, it gets you a lot of views, but it's not ethical to do that. And so sometimes there's a gray zone there. And I like Trey. Trey's a friend, but I was a little critical of him last time. Let's hope he doesn't do it this time. He's in Tel Aviv right now and is reporting on this. As a matter of fact, I've got a report from Trey Yingst. Let's see if I can find that one. I thought I put that up. Well, I'll have to look for it. This is Reza Pahlavi going on Fox News, talking about the casualties, the rising casualties that he's hearing about inside Iran. Take a listen.
That we had more casualties in the last 2 days, 4 times the number of people who were dead as a result of the 9/11 terrorist attack.
We're trying to get our head around that. What is the number that
about
you?
12,000 plus.
12,000 plus.
That's what we get so far. It might be more, but that's the minimum number that we know so far have been killed.
12,000 people killed so far. From that's coming from Reza Pahlavi. He also went and put out a video on social media directed at the IRGC and military officials inside and government officials inside Iran, saying, look, you need to pick a side, because we are not going to stop until this regime falls. And when it does, where you were politically is going to be very important to your long-term survival. And so they're trying to encourage defections from the army and the IRGC. So far, we have not seen a lot of that, unfortunately. What we have seen are lots and lots of young people coming out and going to the streets, but not so much. I'm trying to find that. Oh, here it is. Here's Trey Yingst. Let's see if where to go. Well, there it is.
Isfahan, Fox News was able to make contact with a man who is using Starlink. He described battles between protesters and security forces who are using live ammunition. On the call, he said the government has really repressed them using weapons of war against the demonstrators. At the moment, the situation for the demonstrators in the street, the atmosphere is like a war zone, and some people are trying to escape from it. I have to emphasize that among Iranian people, Trump is the most popular person right now. He has so much popularity because of the steps that he took toward preventing the growth of terrorism in the Middle East. They respect him. The internet blackout in Iran continues, making it difficult for people to get new information, although international calls were briefly going through overnight.
So he's saying that the people inside Iran respect Trump, and that's because they're very hopeful that President Trump will actually do something to help them. So far, it's just been lip service. And President Trump's last social media post about this said, help is on the way. Keep protesting, keep fighting. But according to the Institute for the Study of War, reports of protest activity across Iran continued at a relatively low level last night. They recorded 7 protests across 6 provinces, compared to 156 protests across 27 provinces on the 8th of January. So we assess with low to medium confidence that protests are occurring beyond what we have recorded. However, that the regime has successfully limited the amount of information leaving Iran. So there may be more protests that they don't know about because of the crackdown on information, but they're saying that the number of protests is declining. The number of people in the streets are going down, and that's directly related to the violence that is being visited on the people by the Iranian government. Now, Russia has been helping Iran with that. Apparently, they have sent attack helicopters and other heavy weapons to Iran in recent weeks that Iran is employing against their own people. They wouldn't use attack helicopters against Israel, for example, because they're too far away. But so they are, I mean, this is really bad. And of course, Russia has got its hand in anything evil going on around the world. Not surprising right there. There is an uptick, according to ISW, in anti-regime militant activity in southeastern Iran that may exacerbate the regime's bandwidth constraints by creating additional security challenges for the regime in that region. So that means that there are militants that are taking up arms against the regime in the south. And that, of course, is a good sign for the revolution, or whatever you want to call it. Now, I want to play a clip from a Israeli general talking about the situation and what he ascertains could happen in the near future. Take a listen.
That another fight with Iran and Hezbollah and possibly the Houthis is imminent. And today I can say something we couldn't have said a month ago. This regime is going down. There will be no Iranian regime. And this is going to change entirely the future of Israel.
How it will happen? Can you describe us? It will be an American attack? It will be an Israeli-American attack?
So I think it's going to be an American-led attack with the assistance of Israel. Iranians, even before the demonstrations, they started rearming again. They wanted revenge. They want to attack us. They want to shoot massive amounts of ballistic missiles on us. And Israel prepared for a preemptive attack. But as Israel was preparing for a preemptive attack that might have happened even today, the demonstration started, and a clear message for President Trump: we are not going to let you shoot these demonstrators. We are going to defend them. And indeed, I think that we'll see in the very near future a massive American attack with the help of Israel and with the demonstrators. I think this regime stands no chance, and they will fall. And I can tell you, as I said, the bigger the win will be, the greater the golden age of Israel and the Jewish people will be.
So he's sounds pretty confident there that we will see an attack in short order, and that it will be massive on the scale from the United States. It's going to be, this will be a bigger conflict, a more intense conflict likely than the one in June. So we need to be praying for the peace of Jerusalem. We need to be praying for the protection of God's hand over Israel at this time and over U.S. troops in the region. Now, one thing that he did point out, however, is that the United States is going to put together a joint operation between Israel and the U.S. What we're hearing is that Saudi Arabia has denied the United States the right to overfly Saudi territory to get to Iran. That's a change from the last time. Also, the Qataris are not happy about this. They don't want the United States to attack Iran for obvious reasons, because they get a large amount of their legitimacy in the region by being sort of a mediator and a go-between between these different factions. And it's without a doubt, they are supporting the Muslim Brotherhood side there. Okay. Now, we've also seen American ISR aircraft, the surveillance reconnaissance aircraft, flying over Iran. And this is what they do as they're building a target set. So they're figuring out what to blow up and what not to blow up. Obviously, there are some real concerns. They don't want that with all these crowds in the streets and things like that. And the crowds are gathering around IRGC headquarters and weapons depots, military bases, and things like that. So if we go blow those things up, there's a good chance of civilian casualties. So we have to be very careful about that. But the U.S. is extremely precise in its targeting. You can bet, just from looking at President Trump's previous attacks on Iran and Venezuela and elsewhere, that this is going to be a limited attack. This is not going to be all-out war. This is not going to be troops on the ground or anything like that. We're not going to be sending Delta Force in to grab Khamenei and put him in handcuffs. There are a lot of people that would like to see that, but that's not likely in the cards for this operation. This will likely be the United States bombing strategic targets, trying to give the regime a push on its way out the door. Of course, the regime has been preparing for that by moving large amounts of gold to Russia, relocating some of the families of IRGC officials and government officials to Moscow and places like that. And so there's a real potential that the Ayatollah escapes, goes somewhere else into exile. And so some people have asked, well, in so doing, if we overthrow this government or help the people do so, is that going to lead to an even worse regime coming into power that's even more radical? I'm not sure you could get more radical. There is the MEK, which is a sort of ISIS affiliated Marxist. And so, you want to take the two worst possible groups of people on planet Earth. You take the Islamic State and a bunch of communists and put them together. That's MEK, and they are they're on the ground. Okay. And so there's a slight possibility that they could take control, but it is much more likely that the people would not stand for that either. And Reza Pahlavi, the United States has been in talks with Reza Pahlavi to come in as a sort of interim president. Again, nobody voted for him, but everybody sees him as a symbol of their, their freedom. And so pretty much everybody in Iran wants him to be the next leader of Iran. If that happens, then it really will be a new golden age between Iran and Israel. The amount of terror in the region will likely drop precipitously under the current regime. If this war kicks off, it's likely that we will see renewed attacks from the Houthis on Israel and on shipping. The Iranians might shut down the Strait of Hormuz and attack shipping as well. This could cause a spike in the price of oil. That's one of the reasons Saudi Arabia is against it. But I think that would be short-lived because there's a lot of oil in the pipeline right now. There's a lot of oil on ships floating around out there. And so, one of the things that Iran has been doing is, this is interesting. If you look at their oil industry, everything that Iran runs on natural gas. They use it for electricity generation. They use it for heat. And to get at the natural gas that Iran has, they have to extract what they call condensate, which is essentially like raw gasoline. It's very high octane, sort of very light petroleum product. And the thing is, it's super corrosive and it goes bad very quickly. Now, a lot of refineries around the globe don't like to use condensate because it's very corrosive on their equipment and things like that. So there's a limited number of places where Iran can actually sell that condensate. So what they've been doing is they've been putting it on ships and floating it around out there. And they say that there's something like hundreds of millions of barrels of condensate that are just floating around, and they're not actually going anywhere. They're just functioning as storage. And each one of those ships probably costs $50,000 a day to run. So that's very expensive to do, but Iran has to put it somewhere. And so they just keep floating it on these ghost ships and sending it off to sea. Sometimes I believe it can be mixed with other grades and that sort of thing. But nevertheless, China is really one of the only places where that stuff can go. And if the United States were to stop those ships and not allow Iran, maybe, strike the Kermanshah area where the Iranians offload their petroleum products onto those ships from the shore, that could really make it so that Iran doesn't have electricity. They've already got rolling blackouts. They've already got very little water. Those are two of the factors that have caused these protests to start up in the first place. There's one other thing that is contributing to this unrest, and that is the rial, the Iranian currency, has entered into hyperinflation mode. It's gotten to the point where it takes 1.8 million rial to get $1. And that is massive. Just I think a week ago, it was at 1 million to 1. Now it's at 1.8 million to 1. That shows that the Iranian government is printing currency as fast as they possibly can. And what we're seeing is that various banks around Iran are starting to collapse. There's been a run on the currency. People are pulling out as much as they possibly can. And they're saying that it's all but worthless now. The inflation rate is so high. So they're unable to use it to buy any goods. That turns them into a barter economy. The number one state bank that actually, it's called SEPA. That bank is the bank that provides the payment for the IRGC officials, for the Army, for government officials, et cetera, et cetera. Back during about 6 months ago, they took a bunch of failing banks and rolled them into SEPA. But those failing banks brought with them a bunch of toxic loans that are not performing, a bunch of really bad debt and things like that. And so it really poisoned SEPA and kind of set them up to fall. So if SEPA goes under, and some people are saying it already has, but if SEPA goes under, you are going to see a collapse of the regime. Like, you don't need to watch the protests so much. You need to watch the mathematics, the arithmetic of, can the regime continue to function? And does it have the currency to do so? And right now they're just printing currency out of thin air so fast that it's causing the currency to just plunge in value to the point of being all but worthless now. So that is incredibly important to keep watching. Again, we are likely to see American intervention in some way, shape, or form in the next maybe few hours, or maybe the next day or two. I want to also play for you a phone call that we were able to get out of Iran, and I translated it to English. I don't know why it gave the guy a Southern accent, but so you can just listen to the desperation in this guy's voice as he's calling from Tehran and saying, we are in a really bad way right now and we need intervention. So take a listen.
Not even thinks about it. They don't even imagine in their wildest dreams what is truly happening in Iran today. Thousands upon thousands of innocent people have been killed. Our friends, our comrades, all our dearest loved ones have been killed. In Iran, please be our voice, our only voice. It is absolutely essential that the world hears our voice. If no significant change occurs in the next few days, the entire population of Iran will be subjected to a massacre. The entire population of Iran will be massacred. I swear to God, I don't want to exaggerate, but the situation is truly terrible and suffocating. Only help must come from outside. Nothing will happen here with empty hand. Nothing will happen. Help must come from outside. A horrific crime has taken place. We saw it with our own eyes. In the streets and in our very own homes, people were killed. Girls of 17, 18, 16 years of age were murdered in their homes. I truly cannot express how I feel at this very moment, because honestly, if my phone gets busy today or any kind of incident occurs, they are gathering information. We've gone back 100 years. Their gatherings are closing. The internet is down. The situation in Iran is truly horrific and utterly indescribable. If you can, please broadcast my voice. It really is happening. War crimes, crimes against, they say, humanity are occurring in Iran. They say 12,000 people. I don't know, 10,000 people. That's a joke. But compared to what we've seen with our own eyes, it's impossible to describe the atrocities they are committing in Iran. I love you all. I adore you all.
Okay, so he's detailing these atrocities that are taking place, saying between 10 and 20,000 people have been murdered by the regime, and they are going door to door. They're searching for Starlinks. They are searching for anything that they can use to terrorize the people. As he said, they're murdering teenage girls. They're, it's just horrific. There is some video out of that happening, and I'm not going to obviously post it here on YouTube because it would get me demonetized. It's likely that this video will be demonetized anyway. So that's why, folks, I covet your participation over at chuckholton.com. If you would just go to chuckholton.com, become a supporter over there, basically buy me a coffee every month, an expensive coffee, but a coffee, $9 a month. And you get lots of extra information. We're putting up videos over there we can't show you at at YouTube. And you're getting live phone calls with me every month. where we do a Zoom call for our supporters. We're getting early access to a lot of our videos and my books and my documentaries and things like that. So it really helps to sort of smooth out the vagaries of YouTube when you go over there and become a supporter at chuckholton.com. I really appreciate those of you who've done that. It enables us to help people wherever we go. We've been able to help people all around the globe in the last year, people in Colombia, people in Burma, people in Ukraine, people in Israel, and on and on and on. Armenia, even Iranians. There's an Iranian woman who's working as a missionary. She came out of Iran into Armenia, became a Christian, and she's now quit her job because of our support and is full-time ministering to other Iranians that are escaping into Armenia and showing them the good news of God's word. So we're supporting her full-time, and that comes just because of the support that we receive over at chuckholton.com. So if you want to support things like that, go over there and become a supporter, please. I appreciate all of our new members. I appreciate all of the donations we get or tips that we get here on YouTube. There's 100 from Live Animal, 100 something. I'm not sure what that is. But we certainly appreciate all of your, super chats, super thanks, and things like that over there. Okay, so what would it look like if the United States does attack? Well, it's going to be likely, airstrikes on, and the real question is, what are they going to be striking? They're probably going to go ahead and hit the nuclear sites once again. There's still this issue of like 400 kilograms of highly enriched uranium that's floating around somewhere in Iran. The United States believed that it was buried by the previous strikes. The Mossad says no, says that it's still in play out there somewhere, and that the Iranians are actively constructing other underground bunkers to hide stuff like that in. So we may strike some of those locations. But really, this is going to be aimed more, I believe, at helping the people by taking out IRGC military bases, convoys, military equipment. If there are airfields with helicopters that have been used to attack the Iranian people, we're going to blow up those helicopters, any remaining fighter jets or anything like that they have. Obviously, we're going to go ahead and take out any air defense assets that Iran has been able to collect up since the last time we blew them all up. Those have come from China and from Russia. That is, again, more than just help for the Iranian people. It's a message to China and Russia that we can take out your equipment anytime, any place, and you can't do a darn thing about it. This helps dissuade China from trying to take over Taiwan in the near term. It is also a message to Russia that they don't want to mess with NATO. And Russia likely knows that already. Russia is really starting to lose badly in Ukraine right now. And so, we'll talk about that on a future live. But the strikes could go beyond airstrikes. It's very, very likely we will see cyber warfare, and we probably already are seeing cyber warfare across Iran by the United States and Israel. Also, the Mossad still has a bunch of agents that are, gallivanting around Iran. And so we could very well see in the opening stages of this attack that may be coming, Mossad assets like drones taking off and striking leadership. So IRGC leadership, government leadership, maybe even the Ayatollah himself, although he's probably deep, deep, deep inside a bunker already as, this is unfolding before us. Okay. All right. We got almost 45 minutes. So let's move over to our questions and comments because we got a bunch of them today. Folks, I always try to get to your questions, and I'm going to stay on as long as it takes to get through them all, but we're going to go through them quickly, and we're going to try to stay on topic. So Nathan, just skip anything that's not on the topic of Iran right now. Weather cloudy in Tehran until Friday. When cleared, does the U.S. have to wait until it's clear? No, they do not. It helps for sure, but they don't necessarily have to wait because we have the technology to see through weather. It just depends on how bad the weather actually is. And that may actually be something that's, making a difference in why we haven't struck already. Next question. What or how do you think America will go about attacking IRGC? Okay, so I just talked about that, so we can pass on that one. Did Iran do mass executions today? Tammy asks. Have not heard. They had announced that they would start doing executions today. And now, as I said, it's about 8 or 9 o'clock at night over there. So it's likely that if they were going to do them, they have already started doing them. Let's hope that they have held off. Next question. What other countries are helping? There's a likelihood that Jordan could help to shoot down Iranian rockets and drones that are coming across toward Israel. Maybe Saudi Arabia would help, although, again, they've shown that they're not really willing to allow the U.S. to overfly their country to strike Iran. So we'll have to see what happens there. Sometimes Houthi missiles and rockets cross Saudi airspace to get to Israel, and the Saudis will shoot those down, but we'll have to wait and see. Next question. Do you think Trump is taking so long because of IRGC threats to Israel? Well, it may have something to do with weather, but I think it probably has to do with just getting all the assets in place. We don't have any significant naval assets, like a carrier strike group in the region. The USS Abraham Lincoln was like a week out a couple days ago. We don't have to have them there to do strikes, but it certainly would be preferable for us to do that. And that may be why they're waiting as well. Next question. Hey, Chuck, blood is thicker than water, but unfortunately oil is thicker than blood. Sad day for Iran. IRGC has prevailed. Well, let's hope that that's not the long-term outcome of this, but we'll have to wait and see. Judy says, this is so heartbreaking. What can USA do? So many people are saying that that's not our fight, but how can we turn a blind eye to this as a country? Yeah, we should support them in prayer. We should support them morally, but we have actually caused a lot of this uprising to happen because of President Trump's statements that he would support them. And I believe our president should actually live up to his statements and should do what he says he's going to do. Otherwise, the United States loses a lot of pull, both with our adversaries and our allies, if we don't actually act when we say we're going to. Next question. Someone please help them. Why is Israel wanting the U.S. to stay out of it? The U.S. is not wanting, Israel's not wanting the U.S. to stay out of it. Next question. Could we do liberator drops like weapons and ammo? It's certainly something we could do. It's just, I'm not sure it's something we would do. Now, if you go back to the Iran-Contra scandal that surrounded Oliver North back in the 1980s, one of the things that Oliver North was doing was assisting Israel in selling surplus American-made weapons that they owned to dissidents of the Ayatollah inside Iran. The mainstream media narrative said that Oliver North was selling American weapons to our enemy, Iran. It was actually just the opposite of that. He was assisting Israel to sell their excess weaponry to opposition elements in Iran that would have helped them overthrow. And it would have actually precluded most of the terrorism that Iran has engaged in since the 1980s from happening, if that had really worked out better than it did. So, that's something that could happen. We could try to arm the opposition, but some of the opposition are not ideologically aligned with us and would actually be worse than the Khamenei. So we don't want to help them. Next question. I'm not saying we shouldn't get involved, but why aren't some of the other countries nearby helping these people like other moderate Islamic countries? It's a very good point. It's a very good point. They're not helping because some of them, like the tension that is represented by Iran and Israel being at each other's throats all the time, some of them profit from it. And some of them are just, not in a position to do much. If, let's say, Iraq or Jordan were to do something against Iran, well, Iran is right next door. They could actually send troops into Iraq and invade if they wanted to, or they could cause lots of damage and civilian casualties inside Iraq or Jordan. Now, Iraq would not do that because by and large, the Iraqi government is friendly to Iran. They get a lot of their electricity and oil from Iran. So that wouldn't happen from Iraq's point of view, but Jordan, Saudi Arabia, UAE, they're just not equipped to go up against Iran. Iran has the largest military in the region. So there's that. Okay, next question. Jenny says, praying for the people of Iran. They broke into police stations. Are they using those guns that were there? It's possible that they have been able to, pick up some firearms, but all we're seeing is stuff like this where they're throwing Molotov cocktail. So these are improvised weapons. They're burning down. I don't know what that building is. Might be a police station or a mosque or something. So I have not seen any evidence that the Iranians are using firearms against the regime. That doesn't mean it's not happening. It just means that there's no video coming out of it. Next question from Coop says, if the regime collapses, what's the chance that an even worse regime takes over? I think I've answered that one. I think it's not likely. It's very likely that Reza Pahlavi will be ushered in as the interim leader, just like we did in Afghanistan after we overthrew the Taliban in 2002. So next question, Wally Fumli, where is the help promised to these people? Talk is cheap, do something. Yeah, that's not a question, but I agree. Mary says, exactly, where is the UN, United Nations, United Nothingness? Where are the human rights? Where are the Muslim countries? Where is foolish Greta? Again, very good points you're making there, and we've already talked about that. Next question, do you think the U.S. should capture the Khamenei of Iran? I think maybe we should send him to hell where he belongs. But that's, that's probably why I'm not president right now. Next question, why is Trump waiting? I think I've already covered that one, just waiting for the right moment. Let's hope that he's got the stones to actually do something about it. Jocelyn says, stay strong in hopes Iran from UK. I'm moving to Panama. Do you know best Christian expat areas to live? We have a great church here in Anton Valley. So that's one place I know for sure. There's also a good church in the city if you're more amenable to city living. There's also a church down at the beach in Coronado if you want to look there. Next question. So is this timing reasonable? It's heartbreaking and frustrating that so many people have been slaughtered. Could help reasonably acted sooner if help is indeed on its way. Yeah, it seems like we should have, gone sooner. But the U.S. military doesn't do anything until they've got all their ducks in a row and they've got everything planned out and they've got all the resources in place to do it. They don't go off half-cocked. And so that's why most likely we've been waiting. Do you think Iran still has enriched uranium to build a nuclear bomb? The belief is that they still have 400 kilograms. That would be enough to build like 10 nuclear bombs, but they would still have to enrich that from 60% to 90% to do it. So most of their cascades have been taken out, the centrifuges. And so they would have a challenge doing that. And that may be one of the things that we strike if we do end up striking Iran in the near term. Next question. It's been reported that Russia has bolstered Iran with heavy weapons. I already talked about that. That's true. Netia says, wouldn't this be a long war even with our help? Otherwise, the people of Iran wouldn't be able to keep control. Well, it all depends on what the IRGC does. If they continue to stay loyal to the regime, then it could drag on for some time, and it could be much more deadly for the Iranian people who don't have a bunch of weapons or training or anything like that. Remember, these totalitarian regimes are set up to make it virtually impossible for the people to rise up against the regime. Otherwise, they would have done it a long time ago. Polls that have come out show that 92% of people in Iran hate the regime, not just, oppose the regime, but hate the regime. 92%. Why haven't they taken over already? Because the regime is set up to have a monopoly on power to keep them from being able to do that. Next question. Are you going to the Middle East for this? Possible, likely. It's likely I am. Well, we'll have to wait and see. Next question, is Russia sending ammunition to Iran? Yeah, I already talked about that. Question, why don't the Lebanon people uprise against Hezbollah like the Iranian people are, or the Gazans against Hamas? Well, people in Lebanon didn't rise up against Hezbollah because Hezbollah was stronger than the Lebanese army. That may have changed, and it looks like the Lebanese army is finally starting to actually do what it says it's going to do in disarming Hezbollah. And if the Iranian regime falls, then Hezbollah likely will fall alongside it because they rely on the Iranian regime for their funding. So we'll have to wait and see what happens there. In terms of the Gazans, most of the people in Gaza still support Hamas. If they had an election today, Hamas would likely win the election. So that's why. Next question. Protests have been going on for 3 weeks now. Thousands are being killed, and we don't have assets in the Middle East. Yeah, well, we were kind of focused on Venezuela last week, if you recall. And so we had moved all of our assets to Venezuela. Now we've got to rejigger everything again. Doesn't this feel a little prophetic? Kind of. You know, there's the whole Ezekiel thing. I don't want to necessarily get into all that prophecy because I would likely mess it up. But next question from Denise. Why can't the United States use drones in Iran for limited strikes to support the protesters? Well, they can. But again, they want to kind of have all their targeting in place. They want to have all their ducks in a row before they do so. And why they haven't done it already, this is good. Maybe we just weren't as prepared as we should have been. I've heard reports that protests have increased. Anyone else? I've heard those reports as well, but the real, reputable reporting from, like I said, ISW says the protests have significantly decreased in the last couple of days. Will boots on the ground happen to get the results? Not significant boots on the ground. Not going to happen. What form of intervention help for the Iranian citizens do you think Trump might use or not against the IRGC? Well, using cyber capabilities to cause the banks and the power companies and all of that to stop working, the pumping stations that pump the condensator, the oil to the coast to put it on ships. We could close all that stuff down with cyber war, and that would go a long way towards helping give the regime a push on the way out the door. Thank you for gifting 5 Hot Zone memberships. Appreciate you for doing that. The K Folds. Country Boy says, is the UK doing anything in the Middle East? Why Europeans not helping? It's a real good question. It's a real good question. They're not doing much. I believe they still have some ships out in the Red Sea that are trying to protect shipping from the Houthis. I haven't heard that those went away, but I haven't heard much about them either in the recent days because the Houthis have been pretty quiet. Next question from Beagle Mom says, do you think he's in Russia now, the Ayatollah? Not yet. I don't think he's there yet. Will the Shah of Iran be reseated? Well, the Shah died a long time ago. The Shah's grandson, Reza Pahlavi, will likely be seated as the interim president of Iran if this thing happens. We'll see. Do you think Russia will get involved if the U.S. strikes Iran? No, I do not. Russia does not have the bandwidth. They do not have the capability to project power anymore. They can barely hold what they've got in Ukraine right now, and they are losing ground on the front lines in Ukraine as we speak. This comes directly from people I know who are on the front lines in Ukraine and from reputable reporting from the Institute for the Study of War and elsewhere. End of the PC says, end of Iran's regime, what will become of Lebanon and Hamas losing their big backers? Well, they're going to be much less powerful and likely collapse themselves. Next question, why does the United States get to decide who's going to be the leader of Iran or who's going to be the interim leader of Iran? It's the people that should decide. Well, I can tell you right now, the people inside Iran want Reza Pahlavi, and that's why the United States is going to help him take control if they do manage to topple the regime. The United States is not just arbitrarily picking somebody that we want. They are picking the person that vast majority of the people inside Iran want to take over, Marie. So there's that. Okay, next question. And to say nothing of the fact that Reza Pahlavi is much more friendly to the United States. So if the United States is going to support anybody, it's going to be somebody that's going to be positive toward the U.S. If Iran falls, wouldn't it change a lot in the fighting in Gaza, Lebanon, Syria? It would. It might create more fighting in Syria, but we'll have to wait and see. As we're, this is not, I haven't had a chance to report on this, but I can tell you right now that al-Sharaz government is becoming more and more extreme. They are starting, their forces are starting to wear ISIS patches. I warned about this, and they are massacring people. They're fighting the Kurds. The Kurds are having a real tough time there right now. And I will do more reporting on that in the near future. Do the Iranian people have oil or gas to run generators? Not a lot. I think it's a real challenge for them. The lucky thing for them is that they're not Ukraine, and they don't have, temperatures below freezing very much in Iran. Isn't the collapse of the Iranian, I think you mean collapse, Cheryl? Yeah, collapse of the Iranian currency the same as regime collapse? Not exactly, but it will track it closely. If the Iranian currency collapses, which it has already, that's going to make it much more likely that the Iranian regime collapses. That's why I'm saying don't focus so much on the protests. Focus on the arithmetic of the Iranian currency. Do you think Kamala Harris would have backed the protesters if she was president? Likely she would have, but she probably would not have sent military, any military assistance. She would have done more like Barack Obama did back during his term, which is just say, hey, we're behind you, and then do nothing to help. So Claude Roberts is a new member. Thank you very much for being a new member. I appreciate you. Live Animals, thank you for the 100, whatever that is. Leaders of all countries tend to use wars and counter wars to further their political games. This casual attitude will drag us into World War III. Listen, we are in World War III. I don't know how many times I have to say that. This is World War III right now. We're in it. This is what it looks like. Next question. I'm working and just got here. Did Trump help Iranian people yet? No, he did not. Punisher sent $5 Canadian. Trying to help when I can. Thank you very much for that, Punisher. Appreciate you. And Alta, a member for almost a year. Please, everyone, pray for the people of Iran. The Lord can deliver them from this evil regime. Let's not only pray that they will be delivered from the regime, let's pray that they will cry out to the one true God. He will make himself real to them, and they will find Yahweh, God, and turn and become believers. And that is happening at an amazing pace inside Iran, even right now. Jonathan Martinez sent $5, I think. Yeah, thank you very much for that. Rich Brady said, Chuck, doesn't the fact that the regime won't take responsibility for any of this even occur to others? I mean, the economy collapse is their fault. It is. And it does occur to people. That's what we're seeing in the videos that we're putting out. Blowback, sleepers in the USA, possible. We could definitely see terror attacks fomented by Iran in the United States if this happens, if the attack takes place. So it's something we need to be on guard against. Iran has repeatedly threatened to strike America. They even said yesterday that they have tricks up their sleeve that the Americans can't even imagine that they will employ if they get attacked by the United States. So yeah, we need to be on our guard against that. After the fall of the Islamic regime, will Iran face terrorism from their Muslim neighbors? I don't think so. I doubt that there could be an insurgency inside Iran, but in terrorism on Iranians, no, I think the whole region would pretty much be happy if the regime fell. Next question. Thank you for the £4.99. We Iranians will not forget who stands with us. God bless. Good. I look forward to visiting Iran on vacation someday. That's my dream, is to be able to go to places like Iran and China and Russia and Turkey on vacation with my family because it's so peaceful and safe. And so I pray that for Iranians. Quinton says, isn't the USA partially responsible for helping this regime coming into power? Partially, only in that we did not go to the defense of the anti-regime forces back in the 80s. to a sufficient extent. Next question, did the executions take place? Have not heard, I'm not sure. We know that lots of executions are taking place, but the ones that were announced where they were going to start hanging people, I have not seen any indication that that is actually happening, but they said it would happen today. And so it very likely could be happening. I'm just looking at some breaking news here coming out from some of my sources. The Iron Dome batteries are being sent to central Israel. Civil Defense and Emergency Services, the Israeli ambulance service is changing the sound of its siren. The current wailing tone, similar to an air raid siren, will be replaced with a monotone sound. U.S. military presence, the New York Times, citing senior American officials, reports the United States has 3 destroyers in the Middle East region, including the destroyer Roosevelt, which has entered the Red Sea a few days ago. The U.S. Navy is also operating at least 1 submarine equipped with missiles in the Middle East. So it looks like we do have assets there, just not a carrier strike group. And so that's good to know. That's good to know. But it does not look like, it looks like they're still just preparing for imminent strikes. I haven't been told that that strikes have happened yet. Next question. Bobby says, did the Iranian people even have any weapons, or has the government disarmed them? No, the government has disarmed them by and large. So their weapons are rocks and Molotov cocktails right now. Next question. Thank you for the £9.99. If Iran is free, are we going to be a much better option for the United States to do business? Weaker Iran to better Persian Gulf standards? Yes. And it will be a blow to China again, because China has been buying oil at a major discount from Iran. And they're not going to be able to do that anymore if the sanctions are lifted on Iran. So that's what the United States really wants. Okay, possibly the uranium was taken into Russia with the fleeing IRGC. Very possible. It's very possible. I think the United States or the Mossad has ways of, maybe knowing if that were to happen. And so if it did move over there, we might know where it went. At least the Israelis might. Next question. Barefoot Believer says, new directed energy weapons to be used against IRGC. The United States apparently purchased a directed energy weapon that they believe was responsible for the Havana syndrome, which came from U.S. diplomats in the embassy in Havana, Cuba, that were getting very sick, getting dizzy, having blurred vision, stuff like that, vomiting, things like that. And this happened over like 10 years, and it started in Havana, but it's happened in places all around the globe now. Apparently, the U.S. somehow got a hold of it. They, I'm told, purchased it for an 8-figure sum, a lot of money, and then it sort of disappeared from the radar, meaning the CIA got a hold of it and they're reverse engineering it or trying to figure it out. That may have been used in Venezuela, or may have been a different, similar directed energy weapon that was used in Venezuela. We don't know. The U.S. government is not being forthcoming about that and telling us what happened. Next question. If the executions in Iran have or have begun already, when do you think we will hear about this? I would say likely today we'll start hearing about it. How do I go about gifting memberships? There, I think you go down to the super chat, super thanks, down at the bottom of the chat box down there, just to the right of where you would post a comment, right or left, I'm not sure. And you click down there somewhere. I don't really know, because it depends on the platform that you're watching on. If it's a TV or if it's an iPad or it's a phone or whatever, it's all going to be different. Next question. Do you think that China and Russia might team up and attack the USA? No, I don't think that's going to happen. Susan says, can you explain the election process in Iran? If 92% of the people hate the leadership, why do they keep voting for them? Well, they don't keep voting for them. The Iranian regime, any voting that's done in Iran is tightly controlled by the regime and has been recognized by international bodies as not being legitimate votes. So if Reza Pahlavi is put in as the interim leader and the Khamenei falls, then we may see the actual first legitimate vote in Iran in decades. And we'll have to wait and see. Do you think the International Criminal Court will get involved when it comes to Iran? I don't know, those people are pretty much worthless or worse than worthless. And if they can't be bashing Israel, they're probably not going to do anything. Cheddar Pepper Prepper says, what percentage of the Iranian people are Christians? I heard it was about 30% of the population. I don't think it's that high. I think it might be around more closer to 10 or 12%, something like that. But they are growing very rapidly. And it's hard to tell because obviously it's a death sentence to convert from Islam to Christianity. So a lot of people that do convert don't actually let anybody know right off the bat. So there are some, though. Question, what was the main religion in Iran before the Muslims took over? Well, it's been Muslim for a long, long time. We're talking centuries, I would say. So it likely was more of an animistic religion before that across Iran. That's a very good question. I don't think Christianity made big inroads in Iran prior to Islam taking over. I think Islam took over many, many, many centuries ago. What was the main religion? Okay, we already got that. Are the protests slowing because they're being starved and deprived of water, utilities shut off? That could have something to do with it. It's getting harder and harder for people just to survive. Next question, with this newest update, does that give you more discernment on the timing of USA striking? Yeah, I think it does. Next question, if Russia's supplying Iran with weapons against its people, what does that say about what Russia could do to its own people? Well, Russia could easily crack down against its own people and has to some extent, especially against Christians inside Russia. There's a tremendous persecution of Christians in Russia right now. Next question, why is America not sending the Iranian people massive amounts of weaponry? Well, weapons are durable and fungible, and if we just give them away willy-nilly, there's a good chance they'll be shooting back at us at some point. So we need to be a little judicious about who we give them to. Next question, how many Iranians are fleeing into Armenia? Quite a few. I mean, I would say dozens to hundreds every day right now across that one border crossing that they have. But there are some that are coming into Armenia and then going back into Iran because they can freely cross both directions right now. Matter of fact, I've heard from some, if you go back and watch the video I put up with Jacob Persley just a few days ago, he said that the Iranians that he talks to in Armenia, many of them had to go back into Iran to go back to work. And he's like, why would you go back to Iran right now? And they're like, because we don't want to lose our jobs. We got to go to work. So it is going both directions. So it's just hard to believe. Klamath River Media says, do you think that America and Israel will do a joint attack together? Yes, I do. I think that if there's an attack, it will be both of them together. And next question, will this be a long civil war? That's anybody's guess right now. If the regime falls, then likely not. If the regime doesn't fall, then likely not, because they will just massacre all the unarmed people. All right. Cheryl says, will you please close this live in prayer? And so we'll take that as our final question today. And yes, I'm very happy to do that. So if you're the praying sort, please bow your heads with me and pray right now. Lord God, we just come to you right now with our hearts heavy for the people of Iran. We pray that you would just thwart the plans of evil men in that country. We pray that you would just cause their weapons to fall back on their own heads. We pray that the Christians in Iran would be protected supernaturally, Lord, and that more people would cry out to you and would be found by you because of what they're going through in Iran today. We pray that that Iran would be open for the gospel to enter, and that Bibles could flood into Iran, and that we'd see a flood of new believers who have renounced the evils of Islam and have said, no, I want to adhere to a religion of love and peace and the one true God. Lord, we also pray your protection over Israel. We pray that you would just supernaturally put your hand on Israel, bring peace in Jerusalem. And I pray that the dynamic in that region would just change for the better for generations to come. Lord, I pray for wisdom and discernment for the leaders that have to make the decisions about whether to strike, what to strike, and when to strike. We pray that they would do that, and that there would be no loss of American lives, especially, and Israeli lives in an attack if it comes. Lord, we pray these things in Jesus' name. Amen. All right, folks, thank you very much for watching. We appreciate all of you. I do want to mention that we have a trip coming up. If you'd like to meet me personally and travel with my wife and I, come to the absolute garden spot where we live in Panama called El Valle. We have a trip going in April, and you can go to holtonnews.com/Panama-tour. That link there on the screen, or just send an email to info@holtonnews.com and find out more information about the trip. We've got a couple of slots left, a couple of rooms left. Bring your wife, bring your husband, and come in April and have a nice, relaxing time. Get a massage, go see a waterfall or two, meet the monkeys, go see the Panama Canal, all that sort of thing. We are going to have a great time. The people who have come on our tours in the past typically end up wanting to come back on another of our tours because we do a great job on these tours and we have a really good time. So we do have some slots open for that. Thank you very much for those of you who have come. Thank you for watching the podcast. I pray God's blessings on you and on your loved ones. And so stay tuned. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel on your way out the door and hit that like button. Don't forget to go to chuckholton.com for lots of extra content, and we will see y'all next time. Take care.